Have you ever been on a really long car ride and you feel like, after a couple hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, that the car becomes your skin, that you're controlling not just the car, but somehow the edge of yourself encompasses the car, that the edge of the car is the you that is a part of the you that is at the center? Or perhaps when you're making love and you feel like you're one thing, or you're beyond time, and there's a there's a subtlety to existence that has exposed itself to you in those intimate moments, and those moments go on for a long time because time is no longer relevant. Same with car rides, I suppose. Or have you ever had an experience with music or insight where the hairs on your arms and your back and your head stood on end, and there was something about that moment that was ecstasy, but not just ecstasy. There was something else there. There was a heightened awareness. So in Indian philosophy, especially Shaivism and Vedanta, um, the human body is inside of awareness. Awareness is not inside the human body. The human body is inside awareness. Now, how can this be? Aren't we transmitters for awareness? But when we think about awareness, what awareness is and how it works, nothing that we see or experience in the external world is the actual thing. We are projecting our ideas, our concepts, but also our senses onto the external world. Just like two atoms never touch, we never actually experience the external world. It's all fed through our senses. It's all data relay, and we never actually touch what is outside, what is outside of ourselves, what is in the external world. Everything that we experience is experienced through our senses and through our conceptions of the external world. Our eyes don't even function in a direct way. We get an upside down image, and our brain has to turn it right side up. That's a whole nother layer. It's almost like we don't even have a mirrorless camera for eyes, let alone our other senses. Um, have you noticed or thought about how various human beings, even if they didn't have the full use of all their senses, even if they couldn't speak, hear, or see, there are ways to communicate with these people, to teach them through touch, what the world is, how it works, and what things are, who they are, and who other people are, through language of touch. And you can make them into a fully functional, well, not fully functional, but you can make them into a human being that's very close to a human being that has all of their senses. That is because that's exactly what we do with ourselves and is done to us. From a very early age, we're taught this is this, that is that. Neti, neti. In Indian philosophy, not this, not this. Consciousness is not this, not this. But at an early age, we're taught this is that. What consciousness is, what awareness is, it's anything that you can say this to. Consciousness and awareness is not that. Everything exists within our awareness. Now, the senses, they're kind of like these tools, these whirlpools, creating our conception of our awareness. They certainly increase the engine of our conception. They certainly increase our awareness itself, but they are not the source of the awareness. Our Purusha, our immortal soul, the soul behind everything, Shakti Shiva. That is what is filtering into our being, to our consciousness, creating our field of awareness, and everything else is within that awareness. All of our conceptions, all of our feelings, it's inside this much bigger bubble. And our bubble is not as big as a human body. We're told that at the beginning of life, and we start to believe that we are this body, that our awareness ends there. But consciousness awareness goes beyond the edges of the human body, our self goes further back within, but our very awareness is a big bubble around us. And everything that we are, everything that we experience, everything that we think is within this bubble. The senses are great tools to pick up information, to give us a better idea of the world, what we're dealing with. But there's a whole lot of misconceptions about the senses, that they give us the data that's out there rather than creating an analog that we can interpret. In actuality, it's all an analog that we can try to interpret as individuals, and that's what we do as human beings. That's what all animals do. That's what plants do. It is only us human beings who tend to not understand our connection to other things, because so much of how we understand our world is dissecting it into pieces, trying to understand it in slices, in bits, and trying to figure out the separation between things. It's a very useful tool early on in life to figure out how to function in human society and in the world and not die, and that, survival instinct. But once we get to a spiritual level of understanding or spiritual level of experience of things, we start to see how limited these constructs are. So when you're in that car ride and you start to feel that the edge of your body is the edge of the car, or when you're making love, you feel like you're one person and time just stops. Time itself is a projection of the mind. Time doesn't exist. Everything that you're operating with in the external world is just a projection of an attempt to make sense of things. But none of it actually exists. It's all analogs. It's almost like we're inside of a jar. We're air trapped inside of a jar. If you break that jar, then there's no problem. You're one with the air all around. It's the same air. Being an individualized soul, a jiva, it allows our soul to go through various plays, through various games. What is it to be Hunter in this life? This limited thing that is Hunter, that is disconnected for now from Purusha, from the grander soul, from Shakti Shiva. Really, we are the stage. These bodies are the stage. The actors within us is Shakti Shiva. This soul, we'll just call it Shiva for now. Shiva acting out what it is like to be Hunter. Once you understand this, once you get a grasp of this, once you start to look at your world as just your mind trying to project something there based on what your senses are telling it, you start to be able to live your life in a more sincere way. A way that you can actually I can just be Hunter without taking Hunter too seriously. I can see what it's like to experience grief, to experience boredom, to experience pain, to experience joy. All of it's the same information that we're dissecting into different pieces, but it's all the same information. Shiva experiencing what it is like to be bored, to feel joy through Hunter, as Hunter, to feel grief, to feel separation as Hunter, or whatever your name is. But we have to understand that this is just a character. It's not who we are. Who we are is what is trying to experience itself from an external vantage point as the individual we are right now. Our awareness actually extends so much further than we think. We just think that it ends with our senses or at the edge of our body. But once we understand that our awareness is so much more, once we start to feel the world not as being engaged in it, but as viewing ourselves being engaged in it, then time stops to have meaning, stops having meaning. Objects stop feeling like they're separate from us. We start to feel those objects as part of ourselves, as in our interpretation that our awareness, that our mind is making and our awareness is experiencing. We limit our experiences because we do not understand the extent of our awareness. And our awareness bubble, if you will, extends very far from our body. That's why people can astral project, why you can experience those moments when time doesn't exist. And in those moments, in those heightened sense of alertness, your body stops being you in a very physical way, in a very experiential way. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to experience it. It can become a very scary world once you realize that, once you experience that you're a part of God and everything is within God. You are what seems like an isolated awareness in a much larger awareness, and you're only temporarily isolated. But our awareness is so much bigger than us, so much more. And objects once again, objects in the external world are actually within us. And each individual person is a piece of God acting as that person. Don't take things too seriously. Try to see where these lines are between yourself and other objects. Try to take those lines down between yourself and other people, between the future and the past, and between the now. Try to figure out a way to take these walls down and experience what the true awareness that you are capable of. Because this true awareness can carry you to remarkable heights of spiritual ecstasy, of meaning, of purpose. And you'll be able to find a clarity in life that you lacked before. You'll be able to glide through life like it's nothing, because you accept that you are just the puppet that feels like it's separate from God, a piece of God that feels like it's separate from God when it's not, when everything is whole, everything is oneness, and everything is awareness. Take down these walls, experience the height of your awareness. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope all of you have a wonderful day.